Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Anyhow, Anyway by Summer England. I'm your podcast host, Summer England, and we talk about all things bookish, cozy, smutty, and the chaos in between. And today we're continuing our ADHD medication conversation. Yeah, that's right, baby. Because if you listen to this podcast, more than likely you're neurodivergent. I mean, do I know a neurotypical? Raise your hand. Are you out there? Do I know a neurotypical straight person? You all are like unicorns. I don't know what's going on with you. But anyhow, I still have questions to answer from you all. And at this point, I have now been on ADHD medication for 11 days. And it has been so illuminating in so many different ways. You know what's weird is that I have been mentally ill my entire life, obviously. And I was born ADHD, and then I picked up some new stuff along the way. And without the constant noise and anxiety and a little bit of depression that comes with ADHD, I feel like I have a phantom limb. Like my brain keeps on reaching for thoughts and feelings and so much of how I lived my life was dopamine seeking in order to help evade the anxiety and the constant racing thoughts. And it was just like such a cycle. And a lot of good came from that. And then a lot of, not so good and burning out literally every single day. And so without that, I have so much more mental space to the point where some days have felt not empty, but that there is so much room. And I have been somebody who has been exercising I've been free will maxing for my entire life, and especially in my adulthood, because I'm an adult. It's time to go. It's time to get up and do something. Come on. And then part of that was ADHD, because sitting still was really, really difficult for me. And I still have that impulse to be like, oh my God, let's go outside. Oh, let's do something. But there's also just an ability to sit that I've not ever experienced in my life before. And so it really does feel like there's more room in the day. And sometimes that feels not upsetting, but it's so large that I can't help but feel vacant in my own iteration of life, because I've always filled it with so much busyness. And now I am set with the task of being able to relax and sitting and just being and not having to base my worth on my next task goal by which I define myself. And so starting medication has really illuminated things that either I thought I healed past or things that I definitely have healed past. It's made me want to go back to therapy because there's elements of self-discovery that I have yet to do, because I've never been in a point of my life where I didn't have like a fundamental chemical imbalance. And so today we're talking about cozy in the brain. And cozy in the brain is sort of a tough situation because so much of it is dependent on 8 million different factors. And I guess today's episode is really just about kind of how so many other episodes have been, and especially the less ADHD one, of just collecting data about yourself and how each day is different. And each day was different when I was in the throes of really struggling with ADHD, especially this last year. My mood was sort of all over the place, and I would have really high highs and really low lows. My mornings were always steady and my afternoons were up and down. My nights might be anything. And medication has its own version of that. It's just different because before I was able to predict pretty well how things were going to go that day based on the stimulus of my morning and how well I was going to be handle the rest of the day. And then, of course, I was going to get triggers and I might get overstimulated and stuff. And with ADHD medication, I mean, my body is getting used to so many different things. And on top of that, I started meds when I was PMSing, and then I started my period after I'd not had a period in 3 months. And then at the end of that, I got a little bit of a cold. And so my data thus far has been very good, but also very erratic because some days were so different from other days. And obviously it's only day 11 and that's pretty typical. But I'm sharing all of this in hopes to I don't know. I think sharing experiences of something like this at least provides a comfort to me when I hear other people talk about it, so that I know that I'm not going insane, or like this is just normal. There is a getting used to aspect of all of this, and how it fits with your life, and what your nutrition needs to look like, and do you need a snack before bed, etc., etc. But anyhow, today I would say was a really successful day because I really didn't have a crash at all. I felt the meds wearing off around like 4:30ish. I took it around 6:30 this morning, but it was nowhere near the crashes I've had over the weekend. And the crashes I've had over the weekend, I'll be totally honest with you, was a nutrition thing. I am having a lot of difficulty eating lunch. And if you don't know this, I am a full-time actor. And so on the weekends, we have matinee shows and we have evening shows. And I'm not able to snack as much as I do at home when those shows are going on. And if I can't like eat a lunch or get myself to eat a lunch before those afternoon shows, my crash in the evening is pretty tough, and I kind of can't get back from it. That is a data that I have collected, is that there is a point wherein my blood sugar crashes to such an extent that the rest of the night I'm really struggling, which over the weekend was difficult because I'm an actor and I need to be there. But also I was getting a little cold. And so there was kind of that weird out of body experience that you get when you have a cold, but you're like in the process of getting a cold and you're like, what is wrong with me? Why am I not operating to full capacity? Why do I feel like I'm floating outside of my body? And then the next day I woke up with like a sore throat and swollen lymph nodes and stuff. And I was like, oh, I just have a tiny little cold. So that's how the weekend was. And I don't know what chicken or the egg or what happened, but today I took L-tyrosine, which is a supplement for like dopamine building or whatever. So I took my ADHD meds at 6:30 this morning, and then I took L-tyrosine around noon, and I ate a lunch. It wasn't huge, but it was a lunch like at 2:45. And that really helped. And so it's been pretty chill, I would say. I'm sleepy, but I had a full day of work. And there's so many things to be getting used to. I think one thing this week that I've been thinking about is I'm not even necessarily mourning or in grief about, oh my gosh, I could have had life so easy. I romanticize things about as easy as anybody in the entire world. And so there's an aspect of me that is romanticizing the most mentally ill version of myself. And I want to be very upfront about that because I have a great tendency to forget my own suffering and romanticize hard times. I don't know what that is. I think it's probably a coping mechanism that I picked up somewhere along the line, or maybe it's not as Freudian as I think that it is. But I'm two-ish weeks in, and already I'm like, oh, that mentally just kind of deranged girl, always doing something. I'm still that girl. I'm still always doing something. But there's an aspect of me that's like, oh my gosh, her. And then I have to remember that at the end of every day, it was unbearable how overstimulated I was. It was so erratic, and it took so much for me to just like be present, and now I don't have to do that. But I am somebody who really still and always has, for whatever reason, puts a lot of self-worth into how much I'm suffering and how much work I'm doing. It's just something that I do. All right. I romanticize graduate school. I romanticize when I was taking 27 hours in undergrad because the registrar never looked at my list and I was able to graduate an entire year early because I shoved everything into a semester, and I was doing theater on top of that, and I was having relations, and I was a resident. I was an RA, so I was staying up until 2 a.m. Me, I romanticize that. That's who I am. I romanticize everything that was a week that was last week. That's just how it is. So anyways, that's what's going on with me. I'm still collecting all of the data. I'm logging everything. I'm logging what I eat. I'm logging the supplements I take. I'm logging how I feel. morning, noon, and evening, so that when I have my meeting with my psychiatrist, I'm going to be able to be like, hey, this is what's going on. So anyhow, you all still have questions. And the fact of the matter is that I should have checked off which questions I already have answered last week, but I didn't. And I feel like I rushed past those anyways, because I'm filming this while my kid is taking a shower and my partner is making sure he's okay. But we're doing this right before bedtime, so there's lots of different things. Anyway, okay. Anyway, let's start. Somebody asks, how much do you take? Did you start with a half pill or go full swing right away? I started with 30, still on 30. There's a part of me that's interested in testing, like, can I do 15-15 or like 20-10? Because of the way that my days are structured are kind of difficult in that I'm up at 6:30, I work in the morning, and then I do have to work until 10. And once 7:30 rolls around, mommy's tired. I'm usually tired, but this is like a different level of tired because I'm so focused throughout the day. So I started with 30. That's where I started. Somebody asks, can you talk about the side effects? I've experienced a lot and worried it'll ultimately outweigh the benefits. So I think side effects are going to differ person to person, and also your tolerance level, and 8 million different factors. Because this is, I'm not a medical professional. We all know this, okay? But because this is a prodrug, it like metabolizes into your system instead of like building up into it. And so the way that you are, your nutrition, your blood sugar levels, your protein intake, your exercise, your movement, the type of work that you do, your individual metabolism, all of this is playing into how this medication is going to be taken in your body. For me, the Vyvanse side effects have been, I feel like, a little bit different every day. So I really only experienced one day where I had irritability and anxiety, and that was when I pre-gamed my Vyvanse with the same amount of coffee that I would drink when I'm not on a stimulant. I have not had that experience ever since. The worst for me is when I feel the medication wearing off plus the blood sugar crash. So that has been the most difficult side effect for me. And when, like today, I am intentional about keeping my nutrition at least timed in a good way, I notice that is mitigated in a huge way. So I think at the end of the day, you have to make the call and you have to be in communication with your psychiatrist. Also assess with where you're at in the journey, because like if I'm still having similar crashes to how I had over the weekend 2 months from now, then I'm prepared to have the conversation, and I feel confident that I have enough data to be able to talk to my psychiatrist and see about changing the dosage, changing the timing, or maybe changing medications and doing something different and trying something different, because I know that this is a journey. So, I think Reddit can be a hindrance and also very helpful as well, putting in your specific symptoms and also like where you're at in it just to see. And if you are a person with a uterus, your hormones are going to interfere with it a lot. So when I was on the second day of my period, for example, I felt like I felt mostly all of the side effects and none of the benefits. That was compounded with a really poor night's sleep because I forgot to have a bedtime snack and my blood sugar crashed in the night. So for me, a lot of the negative side effects have come from not timing my nutrition in a way that is going to be the most helpful for me, because I already struggle with reactive hypoglycemia. So I would just say, take it in stride, see what's what. For me, since I'm in the very beginning, I'm not going to do like a weekend medication break because I still am ADHD on the weekends. However, if you've been taking it for a long time and your symptoms are really, really bad, calling your psychiatrist and saying, what you need to do. There's no point in suffering through if you're not getting any of the benefits, but they can be where everything comes with a side effect. Everything does. And at some point you will figure out what thing is the least disruptive to your lifestyle. So, yes. Somebody asks, what differences have you noticed with yours and the neighbors or my partner's relationship so far? So again, it's only 11 days in, but I have asked him what he's noticed. And overall, he said, I seem a lot less stressed and that I can sit more and then I'm chill. I'm not overstimulated as easy. And I would say that that's very true. I'm so much more patient. My kiddo had his typical freakouts, and usually those really overstimulate me because whining really is overstimulating. And I've not really had any negative reaction to it at all. It's honestly been odd because me being snappy or impatient at 5 p.m. has been such a routine that because I'm autistic, it feels like I'm out of routine. It's very strange, even though the routine wasn't positive. But overall, it's been a very positive experience so far between us. Again, at the very beginning, but good so far. Somebody else asks if if you've experienced side effects, what are the most impactful ones and why? I would say the mid-afternoon crash can be pretty difficult. And then if that is accompanied by a blood sugar, my blood sugar dipping below will depress me and give me anxiety. I know this outside of taking medication. So that has been one that I really need to watch. Was Vyvanse the first medicine suggested for you, or did they talk you through others first? She did talk me through others, but she immediately was like, I do think stimulants are going to probably be the best try for you just at the beginning, and we can see how you go from there. And yeah, that's what's going on. Can you drink coffee while you take it? I had to cut out all stimulants on Adderall. No, I can't. I might introduce it later in the process when my body has gotten used to it. But coffee for me really, really did not mix well at all. I have decaf in the mornings because I like the taste. But for now, I have cut out all caffeine. But I'll probably add back in a matcha. I'm a caffeine girl. Curious about if it's affecting your sex drive and more specifics on how it impacts your partnership. So for you neurodivergent girlies, let's talk about this for a second. I love doing it with my partner. Okay, hot take. However, in this last year in particular, I have had more struggles than I have before because I have been so overstimulated the entire day that having any type of touch, even if it's pleasurable, has been very difficult for me. And so that has, I mean, it's not something we've like struggled with. I think it's more something that I have been in communication about, of just sometimes it's the last, I want that connection, but it's the last thing I feel like my body can do right now. Even if my day was great and I kind of had no stimulus, even if there was no stress, I was just getting to the point in my brain where I could not stop the thoughts. And obviously common with ADHD is like being distracted during the moment and then having to really like lock in for that. And on stimulants so far, that has alleviated a lot. The overstimulation is way better, and I'm able to connect in and also be very present in that moment, which has been really nice. That's been really nice. Overall, in the partner category and the motherhood category, it's been a huge improvement, I would say, because I'm not as snappy or on edge or struggling to not be snappy or on edge, so I'm not necessarily acting like myself. And so big pluses all around in that category. How has it affected your motherhood and diet as an allergy, gluten-free girly, if at all? For my motherhood, I'm way more patient, way more chill, I would say. Yeah. We're still doing all of our same stuff. We're still reading books, doing all that jazz. And I mean, it's going to develop as it goes along. But even my kid today, he was freaking out about something. And he was like, oh, you're not getting overstimulated by this. He like snapped out of his own sort of spiral and was like, huh, interesting. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, okay. It's wild. It's a wild experience to not be overstimulated. It really is. I'm still autistic, so there's still some stuff going on. But so yeah, I would say right now I'm a way better mom than I was before. Not that I was a bad mom at all. I don't think inherently being neurodivergent or being ADHD makes you a bad mom. I think it opened pathways of communication between he and I, because I was always very honest with him of, hey, I've got, buddy, I've got a brain that is sometimes a bum unit, and I get really easily overstimulated, and I'm sorry, and I will communicate that to you if I get snappy and you didn't deserve it or whatever. And so there have been pros in having those honest conversations, because I want him to be honest about his mental health or when he has a moment or something, because we all do. However, it's just nice to not even feel them come up. You know what I mean? Because I tried really hard not to, and now I don't have to necessarily try. And that has been nice. That has been nice to not even have to fight in my own brain of like, take a breath, it's fine, everybody's fine, nothing's on fire. It's been very chill. On the diet, I mean, nutrition, getting enough is its own thing for me right now, and that's okay. I have been really intentional when I am eating that I'm not necessarily going to enjoy the sensation of it anyways. So I might as well make it as nutrient dense as I possibly can. So for example, today I had like a little bit of quinoa, steamed spinach, ground turkey, beets, a few white beans, and then a vegan Greek protein yogurt all mixed in there together. I know it wasn't a sweet, so it was more like a sour cream or whatever. And I have just been trying to pack as much nutrients as I can into the things that I do eat. I will say that pumpkin seeds have been a big lifesaver. I have been having a scoop of sun butter and pumpkin seeds in the morning with my medication, and I feel like it's been very nice. What to eat, not to eat on it. It helps, but also my appetite is gone. I think in some respects, fed is best. So, if the only thing that you can even consider eating is Pringles, then you should probably eat the Pringles. However, I'm not going to necessarily enjoy the taste of it anyway. So I've just been trying to get fiber, protein, and micronutrients in there so that I don't go deficient in this process, because it can be easy. For whatever reason, when I first started it, the only thing I wanted was gluten-free pretzels and vegan cheese. I ate like a toddler. I wanted gluten-free chicken nuggets and then French fries. And these were the things that I was able to stomach. And now I feel like I can, ever since the first 3 days were like that. And now I can force myself to eat, even if it's not something I'm craving, but I'm not even having cravings. Except when the medication wears off, and then I feel like I have some cravings again, or I'm peckish, or I could like eat an entire serving of something rather than just half of it. But I would say the healthiest food that you're actually going to eat, like a scoop of peanut butter. You know what I mean? Like something that packs a punch and is calorie dense and nutrients dense, but is going to help, because your medication needs protein and like glucose to be able to work. So not eating is definitely not going to help anything. Another person asked, how has taking meds affected your parenting? I mean, it's been a huge, again, 100% benefit. I think the biggest, if there is a negative effect, was literally over the weekend in my evening shows, just my own state. I just felt more depleted, but also I had a cold. So it's hard for me to know if that was actually the medication, because earlier in the week I didn't feel that way. The evening show felt fine. I got a second wind. I felt like I was back online, if that makes sense. Like my medication had fully worn off, and I was like, let's go. Let's literally go. So parenting is going great. No Q, just V, happy for you. Thank you for being so open. You're going to help so many. I hope so. I hope some of this is helpful. I know it's a scary journey, and I go in and out of being scared on the journey myself, because this is really new for me. And for a long time, medication to me felt like I had failed in some way, that I should have been able to figure this out myself. And some of that was influenced by that is the culture right now, I would say, is here's all of the ways that you're supposed to be able to be individually self-sufficient and individually financially stable, all of this stuff under neo-capitalism. And there were so many times where I was like, oh, I feel like I'm smart and I'm dedicated and I try really hard. I should be able to help myself. I should be able to figure this out, because so many times in my therapy journey, a lot of the things that I needed to figure out were things I just needed to work through, journal about, do talk therapy, because so much of it had to do with like previous traumas that had self-seeded themselves into beliefs that were carrying with me and in my bones, and how it was influencing my daily life. And I figured those out. And now I had to deal with the fact that my brain was broken, that it wasn't just quirky summer trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing. I was struggling. I was not doing well. And admitting that I wasn't was really hard. And I'm so prideful about that. And I don't feel that way about other people at all. I don't feel when somebody else says that they've gotten on medication, I'm so happy for them. And I also know that it's low stakes, high stakes, because if it's not working, you can work with a medical professional and get off of it and figure something else. And now you have data on, okay, different therapies that are going to help you. But for whatever reason with myself, I just really felt like I should be the one. I have to be able to figure this out. I gotta, right? And I couldn't. And even now saying that, sometimes there's like a tinge of sadness behind it, because I'm like, oh man, I wish, but why? Where does that come from? Because on the other hand, I'm so happy that I did it for myself. And I think maybe in part I'm feeling that essence of grief or loss of that iteration of myself that felt like she failed, because the ADHD medication is helping me be very in touch with my emotions in a way I haven't been before, because they're just not behind a paywall of other things to think about. And so I hope it helps. And I know it's really difficult, and it's even difficult while you're on it. And because life is difficult, and life is also really happy and amazing. So somebody said, food noise is so loud, and I just learned this can be an ADHD thing. Please expand. I am no expert on this. I have had varying levels of, I didn't know it at the time, but what is now considered food noise probably throughout my entire life, but definitely in the last year. And it's just sort of this weird thing of always thinking about food. And it has to do with dopamine, in that eating food gives you dopamine. And so when your brain is not producing it or using it at all in the way it needs to be doing, food then is, unbeknownst to you, getting associated with moments of happiness. And so for me, how that manifested was when I sat down to eat, it was like my body didn't ever want to, I never felt satisfied. I felt satiated, but I never felt satisfied. And that was hard, because I had the self-control just to stop, but it didn't make me stop thinking about it. And it felt very weird and shameful, because I had not necessarily experienced it to that iteration before. And also it really threw off my hunger cues. So this like intuitive eating thing, again, this is a thing that is telling you should be able to figure this out on your own. And like ADHD and intuitive eating are kind of not, at least for me, going to be helpful at all, because if I intuitively ate, I wouldn't have stopped eating. Like there was such a specific comfort and happiness that was in that moment. And my brain was getting something direct out of it without me having to do anything other than eat it. It was just all around a good experience. And like no one, I don't know, it became like this weird thing all of the sudden. And I had no idea where and how it happened, but it really is like it's like an anxious undercurrent thought all the time. And the day I started ADHD medication, it completely went away. Nothing. Wasn't thinking about food. Even when my appetite came back, it wasn't to the extent of like my brain could not stop thinking about food. And I can't even eat a lot of it. So I was like, girl, I don't know what you think you're going to get from this. Come on. We're going to have to, I don't know what's going on with you. And so that is a thing with ADHD. That is a big thing with ADHD. I talked about it with my psychiatrist as well. And that was another reason why she suggested stimulants, because Vyvanse can also treats binge eating disorder. Not that I was fully doing that, but I think probably if I didn't have as many food allergies, I would assume I might have accidentally slipped into it without knowing, because my brain just was like, please keep on, eat a whole bag of popcorn, please. And I was like, I can't. I don't have time to sit down and eat this whole thing. So it is torture. It feels like mental torture. It's crazy. And no matter what you do, it's never gone. No matter what you eat, no matter how much you eat of it, at least for me, it was never gone at all. So that was that. That was on that food noise. But it's been completely fine ever since beginning ADHD medication, and all of my other anxieties have been pretty okay too. Do I still have them? Yeah. Can I distract myself if I want to? 100%. And the longer that I've been on the medication, the more I feel like my own brain, but just without the ankle weights. Because before, there was a sense of, I was almost in like an excitement overdrive because I had never felt that way before. And now it feels very much like I am fully in control of this situation. I just don't have to work as hard, which is nice to not be on that full first 3 days ride of like that honeymoon phase or whatever. I'm glad that part is over. Do you still sleep okay? I'm afraid to wreck my good sleep. I'm going to be honest with you. Ever since I cut out caffeine, I have been sleeping like a baby. Like a literal baby. I'll be interested to know, because L-tyrosine is also like a natural stimulant, and I took that at noon. I'll be interested to see if that affects my sleep this evening. But my sleep, I have been sleeping so well. I did end up getting an Aura ring because I had like a really cheap tracker, but when I was going on runs and stuff, I couldn't tell if my heart was beating at a dangerous amount. And I already have so many different other health issues. I was like, you know what? I'll just get this to like help track my cycles and my sleep. And I'm just going to pull the plug and do it because I had this other cheap version of it. And it's been great so far. And I have gotten more deep sleep and like REM stuff than I have in a very long time. I am sleeping through the night in a way I've not slept through the night before. When I wake up in the night to go pee, I go right back to sleep. My kid came into the room last night and he woke me up. I went right back to sleep. Usually that is grounds for, okay, I'm not going to go back to sleep for a while, or I might be up for the rest of the night. So it has helped me a lot. Somebody said, fellow ADHD on Vyvanse here, how's it impacted your sex drive, nutrition, and workouts? Sex drive, I would say, is going up, or it's rather, it just feels like I'm not overstimulated, so I'm able to be like, yeah, come on. I'm also demisexual, so that's on the ACE spectrum, so it's not necessarily something that is always on my mind. However, it's been great. That's been great. Nutrition, we've already talked about ad nauseum. I'll still keep you up to date on the data on that because I know with ADHD there's also like textural issues involved, and I can force down a meal if I need to, when I know, especially in this era of my life, when I know it means the difference between a really bad night or just a normal night. So that's how that is. Workout wise, it's been great. I have really enjoyed exercising with not being overstimulated, my workouts have been great. I've had more energy to do them. And I think that in part is because I only really wanted to work out in the mornings. However, that's when I was my most creative. And so it was always a toss up between if I work out, I'm not going to have as much writing time because I'm going to zap out. This is going to take all of my energy and I'm not going to have the energy I want to be able to put to the writing. And now I don't feel that way. And so I'm able to really enjoy my workouts and enjoy the getting stronger and keeping my body moving. And it also, I have noticed on the days that I work out, it does feel like it helps mitigate the crash as well and keeps my energy a little bit more stable in that it doesn't spike because I'm still new to stimulants. And so sometimes when it really kicks in, I feel almost like I have too much energy just for a second. And so if I am able to get a little bit of that out with some physical exertion, it really stabilizes throughout the rest of the day. So I think those are the ends of the questions, I believe. I kind of re-answered a lot of them. So my apologies for that. Anyhow, I hope this has been helpful. Next week, we'll move back into probably bookish talk. I really want to talk about yesteryear. And I had my partner read yesteryear as well. And we have been chatting about it and it's been so fun. And so I know I'm going to have a yesteryear episode in the days to come. So anyway, I hope you have a lovely day. And if you're on a medication journey or a mental health journey, collect that data and see what's what. See what works for other people and then test it for yourself, etc., etc. All right. Stay cozy, stay chaotic, stay bookish. Bye.